In today's turbulent world, Psalm 46 offers us a profound sense of peace and assurance. Amid life's chaos and storms, God's promises remain a rock of unshakable faith. This powerful psalm reminds us that no matter what we face, God is always our refuge and strength. Join us as we explore how these promises can transform your faith in the toughest moments, supported by insights from C.S. Lewis. In the following sections, we'll dive into how Psalm 46 offers divine refuge, courage, peace, timely help, unshakable confidence, and an invitation to be still in God's presence. God's presence in the midst of chaos, Psalm 46 verses 2-3. Building on the assurance that God is our refuge, Psalm 46 verses 2-3 paints a vivid picture of the chaos we may face in life. It tells us that even when the earth gives way and the mountains fall into the sea, we need not fear. In other words, when life seems like it's crumbling around us, when personal struggles, global crises, or even unexpected changes hit, God's presence is our unshakable foundation. In these verses, the imagery of natural disasters is a striking metaphor for life's most overwhelming challenges. Whether it's the storm of a personal loss, a health crisis, or financial struggles, these verses reassure us that God's peace transcends the chaos around us. The raging waters symbolize uncertainty, but they also serve as a reminder of God's constant presence in the midst of that storm. No matter how fierce the chaos, God is our safe harbor. C.S. Lewis, whose faith was deeply tested by the death of his wife, often spoke about how faith in God doesn't eliminate suffering, but it gives us a profound sense of peace that transcends the pain. He understood that, even amidst the worst suffering, God's presence provides a refuge, just like the psalm promises. Lewis' reflections on faith in the face of hardship align with the reassurance in Psalm 46 verses 2-3. God does not abandon us when the storms of life rage. Instead, He offers His comfort, helping us withstand whatever comes our way. In these moments, it's crucial to remember that God's presence isn't merely about offering us safety from the storm. It's about standing firm in the chaos with the assurance that we are not alone. God is not a distant observer. He is right beside us, and His strength becomes our strength. This faith allows us to endure and even thrive in challenging situations. When you face your own storms, remember that Psalm 46 verses 2-3 invites you to experience the peace that surpasses understanding. It's a peace that doesn't depend on the external situation but comes from knowing that God is present, working, protecting, and guiding us through the storm. It's a peace that allows us to say, though the mountains may shake and the earth may crumble, I will stand firm in God's presence. By embracing the promise in these verses, we can face life's chaos not with fear, but with an unwavering confidence that God is with us, no matter the storm. His presence is the foundation of our unshakable faith, offering peace and stability when everything else seems unstable. The river of God's peace, Psalm 46 verses 4-5. As we move from the assurance of God's presence in life's chaos, Psalm 46 verses 4-5 introduces us to another beautiful image, the river of God's peace. While the previous verses highlighted the raging storms, these verses bring a soothing contrast. Just as a river flows steadily and brings life to its surroundings, God's peace flows through our lives, providing calm and stability amidst the turmoil. The imagery of the river in these verses is incredibly powerful. In ancient times, rivers were symbols of life, sustenance, and constant flow. Much like a river nourishes the land, God's peace nourishes the soul, providing strength and resilience when we feel weak. Even when external circumstances seem impossible, this divine peace becomes a source of inner tranquility that nothing can take away. C.S. Lewis once wrote about how peace is found not in the absence of suffering but in God's constant presence within it. This is perfectly reflected in the message of Psalm 46 verses 4-5. The river of God's peace doesn't eliminate life's difficulties, but it allows us to remain anchored. Lewis also spoke about how moments of suffering often lead us to deeper spiritual growth. Similarly, the river in the psalm is a reminder that peace is not only a gift but a process, one that flows continuously into our lives, guiding and nurturing us. What makes this peace so powerful is that it is not dependent on the external world. Psalm 46 verse 5 declares that God is within her, she will not fall, which assures us that God's peace will keep us grounded no matter how the world around us may shift. When we are faced with stress, uncertainty, or fear, this peace allows us to stand firm, rooted in the knowledge that God is our ever-present help. It's a peace that surpasses understanding because it doesn't rely on circumstances, but on God's unchanging character. The river of God's peace is also a source of hope. No matter how wild the storms of life become, this river continues to flow, bringing healing, renewal, and clarity. Just as rivers cut through mountains and create paths, God's peace can guide us through the hardest times, helping us navigate challenges with faith and courage. Incorporating this peace into our lives requires surrender. When we accept God's presence and allow His peace to flow through us, we no longer fight against life's storms. Instead, we find the strength to move through them, trusting that the river of God's peace will never run dry. Psalm 46 verses 4-5 calls us to experience this peace in our own lives. It offers the promise that no matter how chaotic the world becomes, there is a river of peace within us, constantly flowing, constantly sustaining us. This peace doesn't just help us survive the storms, it empowers us to thrive in them. God's timely help in our moments of need, Psalm 46 verses 6-7, building on the promise of God's peace flowing through us like a river. Psalm 46 verses 6-7 shifts focus to the timely help that God offers during our most desperate moments. These verses remind us that, even when the nations rage and the earth is in turmoil, God's intervention is near, and His presence brings an unshakable confidence. His help is not distant. It is timely, immediate, and just when we need it most. The psalmist highlights a powerful truth. In moments of crisis, when fear seems to grip our hearts, God's help is not only available, but it is swift. This speaks to the nature of God's involvement in our lives, not as a passive observer but as an active force who steps in at the perfect moment. It's easy to feel alone and abandoned in the midst of our struggles, but Psalm 46 reassures us that God is always right there, ready to deliver us. C.S. Lewis, in his Reflections on Suffering, noted that God's help often comes in unexpected ways. It may not always be the solution we anticipate, but it is always what we need. The psalmist reminds us that when we cry out for help, God's response is immediate, whether it's strength to endure, clarity of mind, or an unexpected turn of events that alters our course. This help is a source of empowerment, allowing us to face challenges with boldness and confidence, knowing that God has already provided the means for us to overcome. One of the key aspects of God's help in Psalm 46 verses 6-7 is the assurance that, in the midst of chaos, He is the ultimate ruler. The Lord Almighty is with us, the verse declares. This is a reminder that, while the world may seem to be spiraling out of control, God is in command. His sovereignty assures us that we are never alone, and He is more than capable of guiding us through whatever storm we face. This timely help also emphasizes God's faithfulness. His promises are not just for distant generations. They are for us, right now, in our specific situations. God is not a passive spectator. He is deeply involved in the details of our lives, offering solutions that often surprise us, but always meet our needs. Psalm 46 verses 6-7 calls us to trust in this timely intervention, knowing that God's help will come when we need it most. In our own lives, this might look like a timely word of encouragement, an unexpected opportunity, or the courage to keep moving forward when everything feels impossible. God's timely help transforms our perspective. Instead of fearing the unknown, we can approach life's storms with an unwavering confidence that God is our refuge, our strength, and our ever-present help. We don't face our challenges alone. God is with us, working in ways we might not see, but always with us, always bringing His timely help in our time of need. God's unshakable kingdom, Psalm 46 verses 8-9. Building on the theme of God's timely intervention in our lives, Psalm 46 verses 8-9 offers a profound perspective on His unshakable kingdom. After assuring us of His help and presence, the psalmist shifts our gaze toward the ultimate truth. God's kingdom is eternal, unmovable, and stands firm through all of life's storms. The passage invites us to behold the power and glory of God's rule and find our peace in it, no matter how chaotic the world may appear. The verses urge us to come and see the works of the Lord, the desolations He has brought on the earth. This call to witness God's sovereign actions throughout history is a reminder of His unmatched authority. From parting the Red Sea to calming the storm, God has always proven Himself faithful, demonstrating that nothing is beyond His control. Every act of His is a testimony to the unshakable nature of His kingdom, which stands firm regardless of the challenges we face in the world. C.S. Lewis once reflected on how true peace and stability can only come from something that is unshakable, eternal, and beyond the grasp of earthly troubles. This is precisely what Psalm 46 verses 8 to 9 declares. God's kingdom is not like the kingdoms of this world that rise and fall. It is built on divine righteousness, justice, and love, qualities that remain constant, regardless of the circumstances we may find ourselves in. When we are overwhelmed by life's difficulties, it's easy to forget that there is a higher, greater reality than the chaos we experience. The world may shake, governments may crumble, and people may disappoint us, but God's kingdom is everlasting and remains untouched by the instability of the world. This is a call to fix our eyes on this truth and take comfort in the fact that, no matter how turbulent life gets, God's kingdom stands firm. Psalm 46 verse 9 also speaks to God's ability to bring peace to the world. He makes wars cease to the ends of the earth, the verse declares. This reminder of God's ultimate authority over all things should give us a sense of hope and reassurance. When we look around and see conflict, division, and unrest, we can be certain that God is ultimately in control. His kingdom is a kingdom of peace, and His reign is just. In our daily lives, we may face personal storms, whether in relationships, health, finances, or other areas. However, Psalm 46 verses 8 to 9 calls us to look beyond these temporary troubles and remember that we are part of a kingdom that is founded on eternal truth and stability. This perspective empowers us to live with confidence, knowing that God is reigning over every circumstance and that His kingdom cannot be shaken. God's unshakable kingdom provides us with hope, strength, and security. It's a kingdom that cannot be threatened by the chaos of the world, and it invites us to rest in the assurance that, no matter what happens, we are part of something eternal and unmovable. God's presence as our ultimate refuge, Psalm 46 verses 10 to 11, building on the unshakable kingdom of God, Psalm 46 verses 10 to 11 brings us to an even deeper level of understanding. God's presence as our ultimate refuge. After reflecting on the mighty power of His reign, the psalmist invites us to be still and know that I am God. This profound command calls us to pause, step back, and embrace the peace that comes with resting in God's presence, trusting that He is fully in control of every situation. In the chaos of life, it's easy to forget the importance of stillness. We often find ourselves running from one task to the next, trying to manage everything, often feeling overwhelmed. Yet Psalm 46 verse 10 reminds us that there's a power in stillness, an opportunity to pause and acknowledge God's sovereignty. In the stillness, we are reminded that God is not distant or detached. He is present, right here with us. The moment we quiet our hearts, we recognize that we are not alone. His presence is the refuge that shelters us in the storm, offering peace in the midst of uncertainty. C.S. Lewis once said, God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is His megaphone to rouse a deaf world. This echoes the heart of Psalm 46 verses 10 to 11. When life gets chaotic, God is calling us to pause, listen, and remember that His presence is the ultimate source of peace and protection. In stillness, we connect with God's heart, and it is here that we find the strength to face whatever comes our way. Be still, and know that I am God. These words invite us into a moment of surrender, where we let go of our attempts to control everything and trust that God is the one who holds everything together. When we are still, we allow God's presence to surround us, calm our minds, and give us the clarity we need to move forward. This doesn't mean that all our problems disappear, but it means that we are no longer facing them alone. We are standing in the presence of the one who has the power to heal, restore, and guide. Psalm 46 verse 11 continues to affirm that God's presence is with us, saying, "The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress." This is not just a passive presence, but an active refuge. It's a fortress, a place of safety, strength, and protection. When life storms hit, We don't need to rely on our own strength. We have the Lord Almighty, our fortress, who is with us every step of the way. In our daily struggles, whether they are emotional, physical, or spiritual, Psalm 46 verses 10 to 11 calls us to remember that God's presence is our ultimate refuge. He is our hiding place, our protector, and our peace. When we are still, we find that He is more than enough. The world may rage, but in the presence of the Almighty, we can stand firm and find rest. This powerful reminder invites us to embrace stillness, trust in God's presence, and rest in the knowledge that He is always with us, offering a refuge that nothing in this world can shake. The promise of God's victory over all adversaries, Psalm 46 verses 8 to 9, building on the powerful assurance of God's presence and refuge, Psalm 46 verses 8 to 9 provides a profound promise of victory over all adversaries. While the last point emphasized God's protection and peace in the midst of life's storms, this passage propels us forward, reminding us that not only does God shelter us, but He also delivers ultimate victory over the challenges we face. The verses say, "Come and see what the Lord has done, the desolations He has brought on the earth. He makes wars cease to the ends of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the shields with fire." This passage brings to light the unmatched power of God to conquer every obstacle, whether they be physical, emotional, or spiritual. In life storms, it's easy to feel as though the forces against us are insurmountable, be it a financial crisis, relationship turmoil, or internal struggles. However, the psalmist urges us to remember that God has already fought and won battles that we can't even imagine. The same God who calms the storms and provides refuge also defeats our adversaries with His overwhelming power. By reflecting on the desolations God has brought to the earth, we are reminded of the times when He has already intervened in human history. From the parting of the Red Sea to the defeat of Goliath, God has a track record of miraculous victories. These are not just distant events from the past, but reminders that God is still at work today. Just as He brought peace in ancient times, He is ready and able to bring peace to our present circumstances. Psalm 46 verse 9 elaborates on this divine victory by describing how God brings an end to wars and breaks the weapons of war. He doesn't just make peace. He actively dismantles the power of our enemies. This serves as a powerful reminder that no force, be it external opposition or internal conflict, can stand against the might of God. Whether you face a giant, an army, or your own doubts, God has the power to bring an end to the struggle and lead you into triumph. As C.S. Lewis once said, we are not necessarily doubting that God will do the best for us. We are wondering how painful the best will turn out to be. Sometimes, God's victory comes through difficult circumstances, but these trials are never in vain. They are part of His ultimate plan to bring about a greater victory for us, one that reflects His glory and strengthens our faith. As we stand firm in His promises, we can be sure that every adversary will be overcome, not by our own might, but by God's supreme power. The closing words of Psalm 46, "Be still, and know that I am God," are a call to trust in God's victory. In the moments when we feel overwhelmed by life's battles, this verse invites us to pause and remember that God has already won the ultimate victory. We can stand firm in His promises, knowing that no adversary is too great for Him. God's victory is not only certain but already secured. In the end, He will reign supreme over all, and we, as His children, will share in that victory. This promise encourages us to face life's challenges with unshakable faith, knowing that God's victory over our adversaries is guaranteed. So, whatever storm or struggle you are facing today, trust that the God who brings peace and victory is with you, and His triumph is already written in the heavens. Thank you so much for watching. If this video resonated with you and ignited some hope in your heart, please take a moment to hit that like button. Glowing star, your support means the world to us. Also, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and share how God's promises have impacted your life. Folded hands, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell, so you never miss out on more inspiring content that will strengthen your faith and keep you empowered. Flex biceps, be sure to check out our other videos to continue on this journey of hope, strength, and transformation. You are not alone in this.